Hello, this is Barbara Kolm again, and I have the privilege and pleasure to introduce you to Freddy Gray, who is the Deputy Editor of The Spectator.
Great pleasure to be with you.
Thank you for joining us. Furthermore, he's also the host of Spectator's Americano podcast, which I can highly recommend to you. So, the US is approaching an election. Tell us more about it. What is your take on that? Will there be a huge win for Trump? Which audiences or which electorate will he grab? Is it the non-white new Hispanic that he's reaching out? Is it the women's votes that he's also trying to get?
Well, I think we are in an extraordinary situation where Donald Trump is the front runner in the polls, in the national polls, as well as if you look at it, breaking it down by state. Trump is the favourite to win the election on November 5th. And this is the first time we've had that, really. Mm-hmm. I mean, in 2016, he was always thought to be miles behind. In 2020, most of the time, it's not entirely true to say he was all the time, but he was behind significantly going into the election. And so this time you have an extraordinary situation where he is vying for popular national support. He could win the overall vote, which would be an extraordinary turnaround. And the main reason he's doing that, it seems, is that he is diversifying his coalition. So Hispanics, in some states, he's getting a majority of Hispanic voters, which again is an extraordinary turnaround. He's increasing his vote share among African Americans. And there was a very interesting piece by Tim Scott, who is, some people think will be his vice president, who is a black man, talking about his appeal to black voters in 2024. And he made this interesting point, which is something that some people have said quietly, but nobody really wants to say out loud because it sort of feels dodgy to say it, but that a lot of African American voters sympathise with Trump over the trial, over the fact he's being persecuted by the legal system, because a lot of black people feel that they are also persecuted by the legal system, or that the system is against them. Yeah. And they've often, many of them have been brought up to believe that the system is against them. So that has increased his vote share among black voters, as well as lots of other factors. Overall, at the moment, as things stand, it looks very much as though Donald Trump will win the election. But that's, of course, a ridiculous thing to say, because it's Donald Trump. He has a tendency to blow things up. I think we could see, we'll see lots of swings and turns as things go on. There's the trial. Who knows what's going to happen there? And there is the economy, which could actually start to improve quite dramatically. If it does, if Americans feel that the economy has improved, then things are looking a little bit better for Biden.
If it were the last election campaign for Trump, but there is this Trumpism, will this stay despite the fact that he might lose or not? Or, I mean, this has turned an entire generation, or actually more than a generation, towards a certain direction of protectionism and not open markets, not free trade. So how do you see that? Will there be an end to that, or?
I think America First is here to stay. It's the dominant force on the right of American politics. I think people can be a bit too simplistic about, Trump is a protectionist and everything else is liberal and open, and that's just not quite true. I mean, increasingly Biden is as much of a protectionist as Trump, if not more so in some cases. And Trump fundamentally, while he likes, he's suspicious of multilateralism, he likes bilateral trade relations, he likes trade deals, he loves deals obviously. He's not an anti-free market guy, and I think it's a bit silly to paint him like that, which is what a lot of people try and do. He's more complicated than that. He's all about business. He's very transactional, and there are elements within his administration that perhaps are more protectionist than others. But I do think that, as far as America First is concerned, Trump is a less protectionist figure than some of the people who are emerging on the American right.
Today the right is undergoing many changes, and it took more than 20 years for Buchanan's ideas to take hold of the GOP, of the GOP. So what are the new developments within the right? What would you, like Gladden Papin, former US academic, has talked about the increasing importance of post-liberalism within the right. Do you think that the dissident right will gain any relevance in the years to come, or?
I think it will gain relevance. I think post-liberalism is something that probably you and I sit around talking about, but actually most voters don't know what it is. They don't actually want to be in a post-liberal world if they think about it that hard. But it's certainly true that the liberalism of Thatcher and Reagan is a story of yesteryear in many people's minds. So I think that the free market right has to think about that and think about how it can sort of sell its message to an audience that has changed a lot, and particularly against globalism, because of course the Trumpist right is very suspicious of globalism, globalists, and multilateral institutions.
I mean, so these are interesting years, but let's take a last question. What about Great Britain?
The relationship between Great Britain and America?
No, what will happen with the next elections here? Yes.
Oh, total Tory wipeout. Yeah.
Really?
No, I think it's going to be very difficult for the Conservatives to win the next election. I think the poll numbers are just almost overwhelming at the moment. It is possible that they will do a lot better than people think, but I think most people are fed up with the Conservative Party. And if you talk to a lot of what I find very striking is the people who are most fed up with the Conservative Party are Conservatives. And when you have that situation, it's very hard to see how the Conservative Party will win a general election.
Well, since you put it on the table, so what will be the relationship between Great Britain and the US in the future?
If it's a Labour government, which it looks very likely, with a Trump administration, which at the moment looks likely we'll see, that will be quite an interesting dynamic, because Labour are keen to reach out to Trump world in a way they certainly were not between 2016 and 2020. And the thing I find most amusing is David Lammy, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, who was one of the most sort of virulent anti-Trump voices in Britain between 2016 and 2020. He said Donald Trump was a KKK sympathizer and so on. And suddenly now he's close to power and possibly close to being Foreign Secretary with the Trump administration in America. He's making overtures to America. They're trying to show Trump world that they're not antithetical. I think that relationship will break down quite quickly, but we shall see.
Thank you very much, Freddy, for your insights.
Great
and
pleasure.
We're looking forward to further discussions. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned.